Captain Midnight.
This video is sponsored by Amino. Oh, and it also contains full spoilers for Avengers Infinity War. So after years of build-up and anticipation, Infinity War is finally here. It's big, it's bombastic, it's, for the most part, very entertaining. But does it have stakes? Is it the game-changing shift in the MCU so many fans had hoped for? That question is a little more complicated. Marvel shook its universe to its core in this film, destroying very literally half the cast of the MCU, if not more. But as all comic book readers know, things rarely stay that way. And I think how Avengers 4 closes the plot threads that Infinity War opened will determine, in a way, how this movie is remembered. But before I really get into this film's last few tragic minutes, I should probably give my impression of the movie as a whole.
March along to the sound of the merry Marvel Marching Society.
The Marvel Universe is a really special, weird-ass place. It's a place where every wildest fantasy is true. Superpowers? They've got plenty of them. Magic? Yeah, that exists. Aliens? Of course. Old-fashioned kings and sword-wielding warriors? Absolutely. I think you get the idea. Unlike, say, Middle-earth or the Star Trek universe, it tries to encompass all these things and more. And the more these genres cross over in the stories, the more you see how strange this fictional world really is. The movie with the biggest box office opening of all time is a film where a sentient tree in space cuts off his own wooden arm to help Thor, the Norse god of thunder, forge an enchanted battle axe. Think about that for a second. 10 short years ago, the MCU was just one movie about a billionaire who builds a supersuit. That really illustrates just how much trust and love Marvel has gained from audiences in the last decade. Whether that's great or you preferred the more grounded MCU, I'll leave that up to you, but it's definitely pretty crazy. Infinity War blends genres in a way that Marvel hadn't done on this level before, and I think a lot of it works. The Guardians and Spider-Man exist in very different areas of the MCU, but I enjoyed every minute of their screen time together. And that actually goes for a lot of the pairings. I kind of want a whole movie that's just Doctor Strange and Tony Stark having to put up with each other now. I'll get into the one grouping that didn't really work for me in a bit, but overall, these were really fun, interesting dynamics. And if half the movie was just the various teams arguing, I probably would have enjoyed it just as much.
Greetings, culture lovers! Marvel has always been known for creating some of the greatest villains in all of comicdom.
Thanos, of course, is who they knew they had to focus on, and I think they did a pretty great job. While I still prefer the fiery passion of Killmonger, Thanos brings a whole different feeling to the role of MCU villain, that of resigned sadness. Josh Brolin plays him not as the grinning menace at the end of the first Avengers, but as a broken, lonely giant, going through the motions of fulfilling his purpose with confidence, but not much happiness. His relationship with Gamora is explored much more than it had been. I have to say, I have mixed feelings about her death scene. On one hand, it felt a little too telegraphed. The moment where Red Skull, who, hey, is randomly in this movie, said that the stone required a sacrifice, I knew exactly where it was going, and I was frustrated Gamora didn't see it coming. But I think it actually says a lot that it never even occurred to her that what Thanos felt towards her was actual love. And having that be revealed in such a dramatic moment gave Zoe Saldana a chance to really show off her acting chops. Especially the second time I watched the movie, I was really struck by just how many emotions you can see on her face the moment before it happens. I actually really wish I had the footage to show because it was some of the best acting in the film. Speaking of sad people, I guess, let's talk about Tony Stark. I hope everyone enjoyed the classic quippy Iron Man moments in this film because chances are he'll be in a very different mood in Avengers 4. I don't think he's ever been in a worse spot than where he finds himself at the end of Infinity War. He's been paranoid ever since the end of the Avengers. What if the aliens return? And what if this time the Avengers aren't strong enough to stop them? We've watched as these questions kept him up at night in Iron Man 3 and drove him to make terrible mistakes in Ultron. But now all of his worst fears have come to pass, and he's left alone and injured on an alien planet, after watching his protege die right in front of him. Oof, for such a funny movie, that's some really heavy stuff. And also probably the peak of the film for me. The Guardians also get a ton of great moments. After he lost his evil planet dad and his, real adopted dad, and now his girlfriend, Peter Quill is probably in a pretty bad place himself. Or, he would be if he wasn't lost in the wind. But let's set that aside for a minute. Quill's impulsive moment where he basically allows Thanos to wake up has made a lot of people really mad. And I get it, but I don't think it's out of character. Star-Lord isn't the smartest guy in the MCU, and he is pretty emotional. Overall, the team has a ton of the funniest moments in the film. But outside of Star-Lord, and of course Gamora, I'm not sure if there was that much character development there for them. Thor gets a great scene with Rocket though, where he really takes stock of everything he's lost. It's a great moment, but I'm not sure the pacing in that particular story was very well done. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed Rocket, Groot, and Thor as kind of a mini-team, but I think their storyline dragged a bit in comparison to some of the others, which I can probably forgive, considering where things go after he manages to finally get that axe.
I'll fight evil. Whoa!
Are you ready to be an Avenger?
To be an Avenger, you must be strong, smart, quick, and true.
Avengers assemble!
My biggest problem with the movie is surprisingly Captain America's whole squad. You know, for guys who just directed 2 Cap movies, the Russo brothers don't seem to have all that much interest in him here. Steve's journey feels very much put on the back burner, very plot driven instead of character driven. That beard is working overtime to tell us, hey, Cap is back and he's got a new attitude. But the movie doesn't really bear that out. Maybe part of it is that I'm just not as interested in characters like Falcon, Vision, or Bucky nearly as much as I am with, say, Spider-Man or Doctor Strange. And I get that's all personal preference. But for me, I'd like to have seen a little more character work in these scenes and a little less exposition. I also thought the Wakandan characters could have had a bit more to do, and until Thanos finally shows up on the battlefield, I'm not the biggest fan of this siege scene. It felt a little been there, done that for me. I'll probably explore that a little more in next week's video though, because I want to talk about that ending. Wow, I gotta say, in the moment it really hit me. Thanos accomplished exactly what he wanted, and the final shot suggests he really found his peace in that, but everyone else is left to make sense of what just happened, definitely including the audience. They went against the obvious choice of epic sad music and instead had the scene play out in near silence, giving it a pretty eerie feeling. But the thing is, once characters like Black Panther and Spider-Man disappeared, it became pretty obvious that this isn't going to be permanent. Characters that valuable to Sony and Disney aren't just gonna go away, they'll be back. So did Marvel risk the MCU? Yes, but I'm not sure it's gonna last. After the release of the film, the Russo brothers gave an interview where they talked about the high cost of the heroes trying to undo what was done here. And I'm sure that's true. It's probably no coincidence that the majority of the team left behind is the Phase 1 crew, who will probably be going in for one big last epic climax in Avengers 4. And I'm really looking forward to that. But if they bring these characters back, they really have to earn it. If the audience no longer buys that any of these deaths mean anything, then they might stop caring. Peter Parker, T'Challa, and the rest will be back, I'm sure. But it truly needs to cost Tony, Steve, and the rest of the gang everything. And that might be hard to pull off in a satisfying way. Overall though, I really enjoyed Infinity War. It's not my favorite MCU movie, but it does feel like the first that's able to juggle so many genres and characters and pull it off. They'd never really attempted a movie on this massive of a scale before. And I'll be honest, big crossovers aren't my favorite type of superhero stories. I tend to go for stories with smaller, more personal stakes. But for the most part, I think the Russos pulled this off really well, and it has enough fantastic character moments that I can't wait to see what's next. Hey, one more thing I wanted to let you guys know is that I'm now on Amino. They were nice enough to sponsor me this week. If you don't know, Amino is an app that basically connects you with a ton of online communities. Want to talk about the new Westworld? There's a community for that. Maybe chat about the NBA playoffs? It's got you covered there too. You can read reviews, vote in polls, post or check out a ton of great fan art. There's actually a ton you can do on here. You probably have a ton of Avengers 4 theories. I know I do anyway, and this is a great way to get them out there. You can easily talk to other people in the community using the live layer, join a chat like I did here, or even start one of your own. If you're interested, be sure to download the app and follow me at Captain Midnight, all lowercase one word. Oh, and be sure to vote on my poll asking who is the best member of the Black Order. Right now, Ebony Maw is just killing it, so any Proxima Midnight fans out there better hurry up if they want to come to her rescue. You can download the app by clicking the link in the description or in the pinned comment. Well, that is it for this week, guys, but I will be back next Thursday tackling Infinity War from kind of a different angle. In the meantime, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you then.